Things are starting to pick up a little bit of excitement, and I'm kind of glad. I've been working too hard, so I'm not going to do that today at least. Hey, it's almost my birthday. So for Red's turn, we didn't have any military, and we got a bunch of Goths streaming in. And this is where it's getting interesting. Is the barbarians are beginning to come, the players are beginning to get to the point where they have some interesting cards that they've built up. They can start making plays. You know, they're close to being able to take the Empire, because this is only a 4, and they've got big enough cards they could actually take a shot at it. And you can just get yourself elected if you know. So in terms of Thrace, some troops came in there. There wasn't much I could do. I spent my points getting Limes, and I bought myself another governor because I can't undertake other problems. I'm going to have to deal with this. So I don't want to start causing problems with other players yet. And then we bought ourselves a military card and set ourselves up for the next turn with as much military as we could. We got one big card sitting on the top of the deck there, which isn't too bad. So I've got something here which may be sort of a question. I know how I'm resolving it. I couldn't find anywhere in the rules where they define what a province is. And in particular, tribute affects barbarians in a flip all barbarian counters of a single tribe to their inactive side in one province. Now, our tribute. Tribute, not tribune. Ooh, that changes things a little bit. So region is defined. That's these things. All these things that are bounded. Province is not defined anywhere that I could find. My feeling is province is a region that's part of the Roman Empire. So I can't do it to the Sassanids. So I could help an opponent, which might be worthwhile if I could come to deals. However, in a solo game, I don't know how much value that is. Some players might look, and maybe we'll see some notes there. It's going to be hard for me to remember, though, if somebody who went already in this cycle of player turns is going to get, you know, is going to make some kind of deal with someone. So that's the only problem with the deal-making side of things. If I played, you know, in a more of a block, I could do it. I could, of course, use some cubes or something like that to indicate, hey, you owe this guy a favor. And players are starting to be dicks. In this case, blue has marched his forces in. I couldn't use the Castra here. I had 3. I had to build an army for 3 points. That would be my Castra. If I put it there, it would get violated when I moved with my next point. So I put my Castra over on the other army that I have here, which is fine. And I marched down into Syria. I'm nicely defended over here. Now, red could conceivably come in to Asia and cause problems. I have 3 points. I'm not going to use the Tribune. That gets me 3 dice against this. Now, this has a base of 4, but I reduce it by 1 by being in the capital. So I roll my 3 dice, and I need a 2 or more, and that's it on each of the dice. And I'll take this. And I succeed, which means yellow gets his capital back. Oh, shit. I didn't want to do this. I'm not sure what I want to use the extra point for military. There's really nothing. Yeah, there's really nothing I could do. I could create an army, but I don't have a leader there. Maybe I won't spend that 3. Okay. What if instead of that 3, I build my Castra here, I buy a general for 2, create an army for 1. That doesn't really help me much. This quester's gone. But I like the idea of building things up better So I build this, that cost me 3, got me the Castro. The 1 extra doesn't help. What do I do with my 3 political though? At this point, I'll just recruit a governor because that's where my problem was. Okay, and now I start counting my points. And I got what, 3, 4, 5 for limes. I'm doing pretty good now. Pretty well. And now I can play with my cards. And I have 2, 3, 5 points for cards. And I can buy a 3-point card without a penalty. But I may want to trash and buy it too. For Green's turn, they managed to wipe out the Franks here. Pretty much using their whole turn. They had some of these points. What did they do for them? They bought themselves a governor. Again, they don't have enough points to jump into Italia and grab the imperial colors. It's not tremendously easy to get to Britannia. It's a 2-space movement. And I just don't feel like I am free. I wouldn't have had additional movement, you know, additional military actions. I really did have to knock this out. So now we go on to the last player of this turn. This turn, they played an interesting set of cards. First of all, they got themselves a Quaestor, which I forgot to place on the board. I think I would put it here. That's sort of the weakest place that could conceivably be taken. I bought myself a Basilica with those points. I used Federati to grab control of these nomads. And the 3 points got me a governor. I'm getting nice cards here, right? This is my wad, basically. Flanking maneuvers was used in conjunction with movement into here. I launched the attack. I didn't end up needing the flanking maneuvers. I was completely successful. That means I destroyed the leader. Now I have 2 choices. I could either that up by 1, or I could take 2 off my next military off a military card purchase this turn. I'm not sure which I want to do. This looks appealing because that's going to cost me 3 points of questorship, and it'll get me an extra point towards cards for quite some time unless some problems happen. I haven't collected my points yet. 2, 4, 6 for the turn as we continue to stream ahead. Remember, we hit 80, it's over, I think. Somebody's going to have to do something about yellow, but everybody's kind of tied down with problems now. And their setup was decent. Blue's setup is decent as well, but they didn't get the head start. So what are the 2 different choices? Let me just spark out sketch out what the differences are. So if I take the point here, I'll be getting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points, which could allow me to buy 2 3-point cards. If I take -2 off a military card instead, then I have 2, 4, 6, and I could still buy 2 3-point cards, but one of them has to be military. The effect is essentially the same, so I'm going to bump this up because that has an additional permanent effect of giving me points every turn. And now I got to figure out what the hell I want to buy. Now I don't actually have to buy 2 cards. I could do a buy and a destroy instead. I feel like I'm doing pretty well, so I'm doing the buy and destroy because that gets me a better turnover of cards. I chose my cards for the turn. What I couldn't do, and I thought I could for a moment because I have 7 points, right, is buy the Pretender, a 4-point card, and a destroy, and that would have been optimal. But no, I only have 3 provinces, so that's not an option for me. And that's another time around the block. It really kind of looks like yellow's running away with the game. Just, you know, some of it was luck. Some of it was they made some pretty good starts. I would say blue has as good a start, but I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Yellow really kind of grabbed a lot of territory, grabbing Africa, grabbing Syria, cutting people off. and they're kind of far away from everybody, so they're not really threatened. It's a good starting location because, yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of barbarians on me. Hispania was a great looking starting location, but he ended up kind of getting cut off by Gallia and then Yellow pushed into Africa, so he just didn't have anywhere to expand to very easily. The other player, like I said, blue's in pretty good shape. Green's been our problem child all game. He chose a good location, and Britannia should have been his, but those damn Franks slipped into there, and that's just made it less attractive to everyone, so it's remained neutral this whole time. He would grab it, send an army in there and grab it or whatever, but it's kind of not... it's not the time yet, is what it turns out. Anyway, it looks like I gotta swap batteries, and I think that's it for today, because I gotta go out tonight, and I wanna get a little nap in. Viewers just pointed out something really interesting, and it makes total sense, which is that I looked up the rules to make sure, it makes sense within the rules, but you can march one of your senatorial armies or whatever into a region. And actually, there it does agree that province, I found the wording of that rule lends conclusive evidence that I'm treating province correctly. It's a Roman province. It's not defined in the terms, but that's fine. It says if it happens to be a province, you can move into the capital if it's empty, stuff like that. You can move into a region, and you can attack the barbarians who are active, who form an army, in order to inactivate them, which is really sensible. Not only does it allow you to stem off problems, especially to quiet a bunch of barbarians who are getting kind of uppity before they might come invading, but this is something that happened in Rome. The Roman armies went in on punitive expeditions into enemy territory, sometimes expanding the territory, but not in this period much. You might get a little bit of expansion here. Anywhere else? I don't think there's anywhere else. I think there might have been a little bit on the Thracian border. I know there was a little bit against the Sassanids. But we're not talking about at the scale of something that makes a difference to the territory involved. It might make a difference. You might be able to make an argument that it makes a difference to the support levels in adjacent provinces or something. But for simplicity's sake, I'm fine with that. Where it allows you to go in and head off a problem so that your army can go march off and deal with something else. And you see this all the time in Imperium Romanum, right? There's an enemy like the Sassanids sitting out there, and if you went off and conduct your civil war while they're there, and they may not be a player enemy, they may be an NPC controlled by a player, essentially, whose, main job is to make your life more difficult so that you can't enter the civil war because they're trying to win the civil war as well, then you're in this position where you have to make this decision whether to pursue them, sit in place, which is horrible in that game, or go pursue civil war. So I'll tell you this much, so far I'm liking this better than Imperium Romanum. Obviously not the same sort of broad and I can't find my word. Optimistic, but it's not. Scope. Audacious. That would be a good word for this. Yeah, it's not the same kind of broad and audacious scope that Imperium Romanum has, where it's, going into the details of the military units to some extent, as well as this sort of bigger political aspect. But I think this captures the political side of it in a way that, wow, I kind of wish there were more different scenarios for this. I don't have the expansion to this. Maybe that's precisely what the expansion allows. I haven't looked into it. But so far I'm really kind of, enjoying this light treatment of a historical subject in a way that is believable, It may not be a huge amount of detail. It may not sink down to the levels that Imperium Romanum does, but it also doesn't make the mistakes. And I got to tell you, I don't mind mistakes so much in Imperium Romanum 2. It's the tedium involved in playing it out. If it was a more exciting game to me, I could live with historical problems more. The nature of this game means that my reporting has to be player by player turn at sort of the coarsest grain that I can do. I can't go like a whole cycle and tell you what's going on. But there's a fair amount of stuff that happens in a player turn. And in this case, Red's turn, they lost control of Thracia. They defeated the Goths, but there were still the Alemanni in there, and so we got a little bit less legacy than we would have otherwise, but we also, that gave us 3 points because we boosted our point value there, which is not enough to buy a 2-point card when we only have 1 province. Therefore, we trashed a card, to try to control the size, to try to limit the crappy cards in our deck and give us a higher proportion of good cards. But our deck's kind of small, so if it gets too small, that's actually a problem. Now, we selected our next cards to try to retake Thrace because we've got this army still here. That doesn't go away. One interesting thing about this game is Rome doesn't get smaller. If you fail somewhere, you're not putting Rome at real risk. That's something that kind of disturbs me. I kind of like the idea that in both Republic of Rome, which obviously is a different era, and Imperium Romanum 2, allow for the enemy invaders to kind of improve their position. Of course, Imperium Romanum doesn't cover a long enough period. A scenario of Imperium Romanum, though, is about the feel of what this is, although this seems, well, I'm not entirely sure, because it really does, it handles a slice of maybe one exciting turn in this. And by exciting turn, I mean one in which there are maybe different claimants for the empire, and there are barbarian raids happening at the same time, But one of the problems is many of them have multiple claimants, like the Year of 4 Emperors or something like that, and you have different people who are in a position where they can be trying to achieve the Imperial Purple at the same time. This game doesn't really represent that same sort of feeling of granularity. I mean, obviously it's not representing the individual troop movements and everything, but it's also a turn in this is not the equivalent to, say, a scenario of Imperium Romanum. But on the other hand, there's sort of this abstraction level where it kind of feels like the whole game kind of feels like maybe a couple of Imperium Romanum scenarios. It's really hard for me to get a good grasp on that side of things. And the more I look at that, the more it kind of starts disturbing me. And I'm having fun with the game otherwise, so maybe I should stop looking at that, right? Anyway, on to the next player. Okay, Blue built up some militia and moved into Thracia in preparation to try to take control of that. If they can get that, they've got a nice block. And that puts them, if they can manage it, in really a better position than Yellow is right now. But it does involve kind of challenging Red, but Red's largely not in the same area as they are. I mean, they're split and they lost control, so whatever. They did take a shot at trying to take Thrace. They had a 1-point blue card. Chances are pretty low. They'd have to roll a 6, and then, well, a 6 would do it. Green performed the expensive march or sailing to Britannia in preparation of taking the province. They also built themselves some limes, and they're beginning to, get a reasonable amount of points now. And the real point is, though, that they don't really have a chance at victory unless they start hunting some of the people leading in victory points. I'm kind of worried that my style of play is going to end up with nobody ever being emperor and somebody getting enough legacy points. Nobody's really focusing on going for it. Reaching for higher goals is something I have trouble with in games. I tend to play very opportunistically, and I mean, I'm collecting points and everything. Everything's good, right? We did have another event that not this time. This time we had an Deorum, but we had Adashar show up here. Now he allows a larger invasion to happen into, a larger, I don't know what the exodus of barbarians, or assassins really aren't barbarians though. And yellow is going to make the grab though. They placed a militia, but they have 5 blue cards. This has a 6, so they'd be rolling 5 dice, trying to get 6 hits. Everything succeeds, but 6s give them an extra die, so if they got any 6 on there, it would be fine. But they get a 6 die off the Basilica, so they automatically succeed in taking Talia. Now, that creates some new things, because we just seized the Empire. Semi-legitimately. And let us see what that means. Alright, I'm going to have to figure out. I believe we're going to start at a support level of 4 for 3 provinces plus Italia. But unlike the neutrals, ours can kind of decrease. But I got to hunt through the rules because I don't find anything that right away just starts talking about, hey, what do you get for being emperor? Basically, it's this. In the gain legacy phase, you're going to get additional legacy for being the emperor, as long as there are no pretenders. But you get a lot. You get the support level of Italia, which, kind of doubles my points. And that makes yellow even more of a breakaway leader. We come to something that's kind of troubling. First of all, because province isn't well defined anywhere directly, there's a question of, is Italia a province? I believe it is. Now, if I was just using reason here, like I did before, I would say, of course not. But each province has a support level, exception Italian support level ranges from 0 to 8. So I'm going to say Italia is a province of the empire, which means that's going to get me additional points for my card destruction phase. But that brings me to, hey, I haven't really looked at the 4-point cards yet. So, I mean, I don't need a pretender because I'm the emperor. Of course, if I wanted a lot of popular points, I have like 11 points to spend, right? So I can buy a 4 and I could buy another 4, and that would use up 9 of my points. That's not necessarily very good, but I could buy a 4, a 3, and destroy a card, which sounds like a pretty good thing. You can destroy more than one card as well, but anyway. So that's one possibility. We got Praetorian Guard here, and this is the one that bugs me. You may attempt to place a governor action in Italia using military influence, ignoring any quest or marker and or units in the capital. Now, unfortunately, this isn't explained any better anywhere else in the rules. I don't know what they exactly mean by that. So, if you normally place governor, are they saying I get a free military influence? Which kind of makes sense with the Praetorian Guard. If the Praetorian Guard is there, I would get the military influence bonus. Would that negate anyone else's military influence? I don't know, because theoretically they really shouldn't have troops in Rome. But then also ignoring the quaestor, So I think my reading of it is going to be the military, and I get a military influence. I may be negated by troops that happen, by an army that happens to be present in Italia as well, but the quaestor doesn't count, and that all sounds pretty cool. What it isn't saying is that I have to have troops in Italy or something like that, which was kind of how I was reading it, which is why, okay, a lot of people might say, well, why would you be interpreting it as anything other than what the first interpretation was? Well, I'm trying to explain. And when I read that, it sounds like I'm trying to do it with military influence. So I only need to do it. The only way I can do it is with military influence. And if I have that, then I can ignore questers. And that sounds, kind of complicated. That doesn't seem to fit it, and it doesn't seem powerful enough. And then this final one is, well, I wish I had this already, except that I don't want to hurt anyone particularly. This one's, I really don't like this one because it creates all kind of mobs against you. It's a nice big number of points, but it doesn't seem all that powerful. And that's kind of the point, is maybe this one's not that powerful. Maybe the 3-point cards are significantly more powerful. Anyway, I think what I'm going to need to do is I'm probably going to buy myself a mob. And I'll get the Praetorian Guard because that makes it easier for me to become Emperor again. And then I'll destroy a card. What kind of worries me is the guy who is doing the best without becoming Emperor is also the person who is in the best position to become Emperor. Just because they've got a stronger position, they're able to develop their cards more quickly. They've got more basilicas, they've got a lot of, they had a lot of advantages to becoming Emperor, and now they're generating twice as many points. And no one else is in a real position to challenge them because the 4-point Pretender card is out of their reach. The only time 4-point cards became capable, let's just look at what he had. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. He would need 8 to buy a 4-point card. So he could not have become Pretender. Maybe in different player counts, this becomes a little different. But as long as the players are kind of struggling amongst themselves, whoever kind of gets the lead is able to jump to the emperorship, I think, a little more easily than everyone else. And then it becomes harder. Nobody else is in really the position to challenge that emperorship. And it looks like I'm just going to get to run away with the game. Now, I'm not sure, obviously things can change. Oh, I'm sorry, 60 or more legacy. Yeah, we're almost there. We're at 37. Jeez. It kind of feels like, it doesn't feel like it's the kind of disruption that you expect in this kind of game. It's also a nice, fairly quick game so far. So, that 60-point limit is probably what's bringing that barrier down on me. I mean, no way I'm going to run through the event deck unless people are really failing to generate points. Now, of course, that's where this card comes in. You can take a pile of legacy away from the former emperor, but it's still, it's still kind of the legacy they get from one turn, of being emperor. And you pay a price for it as well. So I really don't know how easy a time somebody's going to have in terms of stopping yellow at this point. Before, it looked like, if we all gang together, maybe we can get a mob or two on them and make life hard. And now it's beginning to look like he's just going to, rise to that victory without any problem. Now, maybe some of that, some of the reason that he's ahead has come from some luck and maybe better play choices. The combination of the two. There's other people who I think have made as good a play choices as yellow has, but there's the luck factor too, and it just is kind of this, it looks overwhelming to try to take him out of the position. I've been missing something in the rules in the legacy section. Whenever you win a battle, you get 2 additional legacy. Now, I gave the legacy for beating barbarians, the 1 point per barbarian, I think, at least once. I didn't give it here. So he beat barbarians once, I think only once. So we'll give him 2 more. What is defeat? The winner is the one who inflicted the most hits. Okay. All right. I'm trying to think if he fought a successful battle. Don't seem to think so. He did. So he won 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe. So we'll give him those points. I don't think red won any successful battles. I am not positive of this. Green may have, again, I don't recall. I'm giving points to the ones that I'm absolutely certain that I didn't give the points to, for whatever that's worth. But yeah, I mean, that becomes a means of generating points. Now I'm looking at other players, and we're worried about yellow, and we need to start hitting them. And red has some military actions available, and I believe we'll be launching an attack into Africa. You can't take a province, though, simply by attacking it. You have to get the Senate to approve you. It had something of an obnoxious turn, to tell you the truth. First of all, I decided to attack Africa. I might have attacked Italia instead. However, I also might have tried to destroy these barbarians. And I did attack the barbarians in Hispania first, then moved into Africa, launched an attack, lost that attack. It wasn't a very good odds. I took control of Thracia at a 1. Well, these guys are a problem, and they would have lost me control, but I raised myself to a 2, and then that dropped back to a 1. The card that I raised myself to a 2 was my 3-point mob card, which is present. I've created a mob here to just create more problems on yellow. I could have done that in Italia, and maybe taken the empire away from them slowly, but this seemed like a more effective play, to tell you the truth. I don't know why. And then I bought myself a tribute card because I'm a little low in blue points right now, rather than destroying a card or something like that. Who had a nice handful of Doom? They had all their military cards because they thought they were going to have to pick on yellow. And they want to, but when they counted out what they had and what the situation is with all these inactive barbarians here that they would, if they took something, they would activate. Instead, what they chose to do was to attack in Thracia and then take control of it. And they built a little fort on their militia. That's going to be hard to see. And make sure I didn't drag a militia with me. Probably not. Let me see, what else did they do? They built themselves a new general. And when they took this over, they gained a federati, but they got it lost when they killed the Alemanni. You can see their points are fairly high. However, they're still significantly behind yellow. And they used their purchase for the turn, or purchases, to buy a pretender card, because they're now feeling like maybe that's the best way that they can oppose the emperor and cut into his points. And then also they can gain their own points. Now, if another pretender shows up, nobody's going to start getting points. But we're starting to see the kind of situation that a game of Imperium Romanum represents. And could you take this as like a basis for an IR2 game? Yeah, you might be able to figure out some way to use this as a scenario generator, but it would basically, see, the problem with it is you play this and it gets to a point and then you say, okay, now we have a scenario. I mean, at what point do you make that decision that, yeah, now let's play the rest of it out on IR2? I had a vague kind of hope that this would generate IR2 type situations. I still am looking for that campaign game to put as an overlay to IR2. I don't know why, because I fucking hate the way IR2 actually plays out the military, and this is a lot more fun. But that was always the killer blow for it. Anyway, and for those of you who don't have, who don't have that game and aren't really aware of it, yeah, this discussion, as with most of my discussions of games, is probably not of much interest to you. Oh, you're probably not watching at this point. Anyway, if you haven't even heard of it. So let's go on here. Suffering some hard problems with the Franks all over them. They launched an attack here. Second attack there. Castra over here. And then ended up taking control of the province, boosting it. It dropped. And buying themselves Federati because maybe the only way we're going to be able to defeat the Franks is with more Franks on our own side. And then we have a handful of combat for next turn too. But you can see the points. We're so far behind and really having trouble catching up. The early mistakes that Green made weren't working. Now, what could we have done? Could we have gone into Italia? Yeah, we could have killed this militia. But again, we didn't have the kind of political power to take control of Rome, even if we had military control of it. So the emperor would still remain yellow. We wouldn't be in revolt or anything from him. No, there's no military solution. I mean, even if I was a pretender, I could go in and take Rome, but I couldn't declare, I wouldn't be the emperor still. I would only become the emperor if I could get the Senate to agree to make me the emperor. It kind of makes some sense, except that if you militarily marched in there, yeah, they would vote for you. Okay, so for yellow, what did we do? We had a whole pile of stuff, honestly. We managed to clear Syria out. I think we may have grabbed some Federati in that. We managed to squelch the mob with our one militia. That's sufficient. We got a whole bunch of points, including for the battle. That puts us up to 52. We're almost assured to hit our 60 points by next turn, and nobody can catch us. Italy's not going to fall in that amount of time. And what else? We ended up buying a bunch of good cards and trashing a card. Like most deck building games, and we used him for what? I don't know. I'll improve support. It doesn't make much difference. I bought, this was 4. So that would be 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. I wouldn't have had enough points had I done it the other way to destroy another card, to build another card, anything like that. So I'm good with whatever I did. But anyway, where am I? Yeah. So I don't know where the hell I am. I destroyed their leader, the Sassanid leader, which is fine. And now, these flip over, and there's a problem there next turn. But because there were Limes protecting me, nothing too bad happened to me, and the other players didn't manage to be able to get their acts together to launch an attack. Feels like some early mistakes by some of the players have put us in this position where, there's just nowhere to catch the guy who managed to get the better little engine for creating cards in play. Like I said, with a lot of deck builders, it's a situation where once you start getting your deck running, there's just nothing can be done about it, It's just not a matter of... Everybody could be conceding at this point. Now, is there any kind of guaranteed imbalance or whatever? No, but it is a little disturbing. So this is kind of the opposite of the problem I have with coins. With coins, I feel like you can always take down the leader. So it comes down to always the last turn, and there's a big luck event with each card draw. Pendragon was the one exception to that I've seen so far. But that's by being more random in other things, so that the victory can end up swinging due to a heavier random event. And here, I feel like random events, maybe a little bit of poor play and better play in different places, has created something where, yeah, it's just clear that one person's going to win. Now, the same kind of thing happens in a game like Puerto Rico or something like that, and this isn't much longer. So it's not really a dig on it in that sense. It's a dig on it in the sense that I want a longer game, and one in which the players and their diplomatic actions, etc., with one another, not necessarily represented by anything in the game, just how they gang up on each other, everything, ends up generating more of the control and the victory points. I just don't feel like people have had much opportunity. They could kind of throw away their own interests completely and try to knock yellow down, but I think all that would do is serve to lengthen the game and might not make much difference. Blue was the most interested in knocking yellow down. Green probably doesn't give a shit at all. Red made their move. It didn't do much. Now again, that may be that I'm not really grasping what I can do, but yeah. Myself a further screw up, so I'm not setting up my cards in advance. This guy wasn't that important for, but over there, I forgot to do that anyway. What happened? More nomads came into here. That makes Africa less and less appealing to take over. So I used my cards to replenish my military capabilities in Hispania and Africa. I built myself an amphitheater. Got a few points, but I'm not doing anything to either prevent yellow from winning nor to really help my own points terribly much. But the cards I had didn't really do me much good. And I've got this position in Thracia, but I just can't afford to try to exploit that. I feel like I have to try to stop yellow, or else I'll just be, squabbling with blue, who, maybe for second place. Maybe that's what I should be concentrating on now. I maybe should just say, we lost to yellow, let's go for second. Blue, no governor in hand. Not really looking to help myself anymore. I spent political points to knock Egypt out of yellow's hands. That drops their support level in Rome. Great. And then, instead of padding my own necessarily, I had to protect this because that's one of my points. And so I upped some of my support levels everywhere. But they're not high enough. I need to have 2 regions with 3s to use my Pretender to the Throne, which really would have been the harmful thing to do to yellow, and I'm just not there. Now maybe if I had let Thrace go or something, I could have done that. But I'm kind of unwilling to do that, so instead I just kind of keep marching forward, and I bought myself some Praetorian Guard. Maybe I can seize the emperorship that way instead of, through an outright rebellion. Onward. Set up for military actions, mainly. Military and popular. I was able to win in Britannia, but here in Gallia I built up my army, raised the popular effects so that, these would draw a bit, but you're spending your cards to try to maintain control over a province so some other governor doesn't get put in charge. And we got a couple of Castras and Equestra out of it. And those are all real. And not a yellow. Maybe they can win the game at this point. They're 8 points away from victory. They produce 3, assuming nothing bad happens, and bad things will happen. 4, 5, 9. So it looks likely. Why I wasn't scoring legacy for the battles as much. I did when I looked everything up carefully, but I'm not paying as much attention to the player aids because I get cards and crap on them, but rather, hey, I got this phase where I gain legacy. I don't know if it would be particularly useful for myself. Some kind of reminder of, yeah, you also gain legacy at the end of the game and after battles. That would help remind me when I took my turn. I should have counted that. Certainly not necessary. You know, this is the sequence of play following thing. But little notes like that are useful to reminding you to look at your player aid. Now, and not playing this solitaire, if I was playing this opposed, I probably would be paying more attention to my player aid because there's only one rule book and each player has their own player aid. Anyway, what ended up happening on yellow's turn, Posthumus shows up, and he counts as a rebel emperor or a rival emperor, which means I will not be no remove it. Yeah, no. I will still be getting all my points. I just will not be gaining a point of emperor turn markers. Right, because gain legacy equals the support of each Italia minus the number of pretender provinces. There are none, so his existence doesn't actually hurt my points. So I got a pretty good chance here. I will not be getting an emperor point, but I'm the only person who's been an emperor, so I'm going to get the 10 extra victory points for that at game end. So that's appealing too. I was miscounting those points in my head. I don't get to count all the support. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 points coming to me, which makes it important that I won the battle here. Because now I'm here, that 7 will put me over the limit. Now, I don't remember what number I said. It was like 9 or something like that. I think I was counting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just completely making shit up for some unknown reason. But anyway, my military actions have worked well. I've got some more cards to play to just try to boost myself over a little bit more. Point yellow managed to do what? They did their successful battle. They played a 3-point card to drop another Basilica into place. That'll help them taking Italia back if they need to. But the main thing is it'll give them another point. Dropped a mob over here in Macedonia. Now with these 5 points, they were able to get control of Britannia. So that's an extra point for them. Now, notably, that does not raise their support in Italy. If it was a neutral, where a neutral was created, Italian support for the neutrals would go up, but I can't find anything that indicates that when you gain a province yourself as the emperor, you get any bonus off of it. And there's really almost no way to boost your support in Italy. It just goes down. So however big you are when you become emperor, that's how much point-wise you have to work with there. Okay. But let me see if I have any problems. I don't believe I do in any of the provinces that I have. So I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points, which of course puts me over. And now let me see. I know we get bonuses at end of game. This was the last player, so everybody will have taken the same number of turns. Is there anything I have to do here? Well, I could buy and trash cards, but that just doesn't matter. So I'm going to pass on that because the game is over. There's nothing I can gain from that. And now I'm the only person who's ever been emperor, so I get 10 more points, which puts me out here to 74 with 38 as the nearest competitor. And you can see whatever happened there, and it may be some of my own limitations in terms of being able to figure out how to stop them. I had a total runaway leader situation in play. A combination of maybe one of the players who played a little better than others, but not the only one. Some luck. And it created a snowball that you just couldn't get a good grasp on how to stop them. Maybe you can pre-program your hands to do better than I did, but I still don't think it would be enough to prevent this kind of situation from happening. It's hard to take the empire in the first place, but once you have it, it's harder to take it away from you. It was hard to get the in this case, this has a support of 3, so I would need 6 successes, make it 7 successes. That's a lot of blue points to go in there and try to take it away from someone. And, Then, of course, he's also got the better cards than most people because he did get off to that good start. To me, that looks like the most likely problem with this game, if there's any. Now, how big a deal is it? Well, it's not a particularly long game. I mean, I don't know. It took me forever to play, but it feels like it's 4 hours or less. Probably somewhere around 2 hours or something. It's not that big a deal if. Let's see what they say. Obviously, playing for the first time, I'm a little slower than most. But here they're saying, boop, 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 boop. Not that these necessarily mean anything. Here they're not saying anything. Okay, so I don't have an amount of time that it's going to take to play. But yeah, it feels like somewhere between 2 to 4 hours, which it's not that terrible a thing if you get left behind in a game of that length. Although maybe for Euro players it's a bigger deal because if it's anything over an hour, it's a long game, right? And my general feeling with it is, as a Euro, it's pretty good. I don't think I like it as much as things like Imperial. It just doesn't click with me in the same level as that. As more on the Ameritrash side, it feels too short, and it doesn't feel like it has the flexibility to really allow you to, to stop a runaway leader just by players cooperating together, which is usually a piece of most of the Ameritrash games that I kind of like. One of the problems with that, of course, is most of those don't have a sort of constantly incrementing victory point track, which means with a fixed endpoint, which means that they can sometimes go on forever. Machiavelli being kind of, or diplomacy being kind of the real poster children for that on a lower level. Even something like Risk, it conceivably can just stalemate and get you into a position where you can't get rid of other players. So at least this has an ending coming forward. It's not going to be an endless game. It's not going to get you stuck in that forever. I had some enjoyment of the system. I felt a little lost in some of my decision making, especially early on, which may have helped, the people who made kind of the choices that worked better to be in a better position. But this is a significant damn difference between two people who kind of made similar choices, one of which got a little luckier than the other, I think. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe you guys have caught something and said, yellow played okay, but even blue and certainly red, I don't mind saying red didn't do terribly well, but even blue made some tactical errors in terms of card selection, whatever. Or maybe it's just not apparent, from the playthrough side of things. It just does feel, though, like you can certainly get yourself behind an 8-ball really easily. I feel like green never had a chance because of some of the choices they made, which seemed like not unreasonable choices. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was regretting them as soon as I made them, so. But it doesn't seem impossible that somebody will walk into a game and screw up their first turn of their first play and end up in that kind of position throughout the entire game, which kind of sucks, to tell you the truth. But, it's not such a long game that you might not be tempted to, come back and give it another shot. Anyway, that is this one, and we'll close this wrap up, and I'll come back with a review at some point. I don't know when. As somebody pointed out to me, I have not been playing any, good old-fashioned hex encounter type games in a while. I'm gonna try to fix that, and I don't know how heavily, because I do have some more things that are just sitting there waiting to be played that are not. But I'm gonna at least try for the next for a couple of the next games to be something a little bit more along the traditional lines. I've got some newer things that I do want to get played that have some, again, more traditional systems. But this was enjoyable. I would definitely, if this had come out in the 80s or whatever, I would have been very excited about it. Nowadays, yeah, it's still pretty solid, I think. But, all right, let's send this up.